to purchase your first rental property in 90 days, making your money work for you. And my name is Victor Vanico Johnson. Obviously, I am a real estate investor. I'm super excited about sharing this information with the world so that, one, you can increase your earnings and be in a position to where you're not as, I guess, scared about your current job, where income or promotions are happening, people are getting laid off left and right, companies change positions, maybe your position is one of those that gets eliminated, and having a stable flow of income outside of your W-2 job is always a highly recommended thing. So I'm really passionate about speaking about rental properties and educating people on getting their first rental properties. So that's what this is all about. My company is Nico Don Projects. And so we're going to talk about why is it so important to have your money work for you? Because again, if you're doing all the work, that means your money's not doing the work, and you've got to have another way for your money to start generating extra money and growing. And building true wealth comes from having, one, multiple streams of money, but also making the right decisions with the money that you do bring in so that those dollars continue to multiply. So here's just a few reasons why I would think it's really important to have your money work for you. We just talked about it. Security from job loss. You know, recently in this year, in February of 2019, one of my corporate position as director of a call center was eliminated. You know, and it wasn't due to performance, wasn't due to my negligence. And in fact, last year, under my management, the company made an additional $50 million in revenue. So it wasn't related to performance. But one thing I did notice is that I was getting more active on social media and speaking to people about my book and things. And so unfortunately, somehow it led to the elimination of my director position. But I'm good because I got my rental properties, and I'm going to share that information with you guys as well. Also, it's a way to increase earnings without trading hours for dollars. So, you know, many of us have worked these jobs 30, 40 years, some people 5, 10 years, but you're only going to make money if you show up to that job, you know. So it becomes a situation where if you get physically hurt, disabled, you get in a car accident or something like that, and you can't report to work and you're out of sick time, well, now you're in a situation where you got to figure out where your money's coming from. However, you build a nice, comfortable nest egg of rental properties, and those properties are cash flowing the way that we teach it through this program. It is a very viable way for you to continue to make money without trading hours for dollars. Another way, better support for your family. You know, being in a position to take care of your kids, your future kids, or even if you don't have kids and maybe you take care of someone within your household, it's important that you have a good stream of income. I read recently, and we'll share a stat here, but almost 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So that would mean that there's 60% of people out there that may not have extra money available to support their family and their family needs, especially when you find out that, you know, I think it was something like 75% of people don't have $400 saved in case there was an emergency that they needed. So that's the kind of stuff that I try to insulate against. And again, rental properties is one of the ways that we found to be successful with that. And then lastly is more freedom, you know, more freedom and options. When you have money, you know, it may not be that money can and make you happy, but money can eliminate bills and stress and things that make you unhappy. So maybe it won't make you happy, but it sure can prevent a lot of the unhappiness that we experience due to lack of funds in our life. So those are 4 particular reasons. You may have on your end a reason that you think it's important to have your money work for you. And obviously, it's just important that more than your physical body is generating money for you. And I always love to see money working for me. So let's talk about this. What does your future really look like? So if we just talked about 60% of people are living paycheck to paycheck, then what do they think about the future? Have they thought about what the future looks like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now? You know, perhaps some people have a goal of, you know, traveling the world. This right here is an image of the Naxos Islands, one of my new favorite places in the world that I have on my vision board in Greece, you know, where you can see that coral reef. So a lot of people want to travel. Some people want to just see their kids through college, you know. For some people, you know, this generation might be the first generation in their family that actually went to college and can complete their college degree. So maybe your future looks like making sure that your kids or somebody in your family that's near and dear to you is able to get through the next level of education. And I did see a recent poll. College students that graduated at the end of 2018 or at the end of the semester or so, like we're talking about May and June of 2018, those college students graduated on average with $29,800 in student loan debt. So it's just like, okay, here's your diploma, and also take this 30 grand of debt with you on the way out, because you know, we educated you, we taught you for the last 4 years. And so that has become a huge burden for people walking out of college with a $30,000 debt on their head, and at best maybe an entry level position gets them 30 grand a year. You can see how quickly those numbers will have you going backwards. And you still got to live, you got to have a car, you got to eat. So we're sending our college graduates out here into society with 30 grand of debt in America. And that's a whole nother topic that I could go down. But having rental properties is one way that not only older people and middle-aged people, but college kids can start investing in rental properties before they even get to their fourth year of college and have that debt. So it's an important factor that all people should be looking at. Really, I say kind of starting out once you graduate high school. This should be an option that's presented to people in addition to potentially college, right? And then what does your future look like? Maybe you want to have a big old house where you can invite all your family from around the country in and celebrate with them and really enjoy family gatherings at this beautiful home that you've worked hard to build. You know, so for some people, those are their dreams. And, you know, I have to admit, I'd love to be on those Naxos Islands chilling out and working and maybe helping my clients over the internet or something like that. So, but you got to really visualize what your future looks like for you to really grasp the understanding that you have to have enough revenue coming in. And you may not be able to do that with just your simple W-2 job. So here's a stat that I was talking about. 1 in 5 Americans are spending more than they're actually earning. So what does that mean? Money's coming in, more money's going out. Well, how is that possible? Credit cards, loans, you know, we're creating more debt. And unfortunately, a lot of people are looking at their credit cards as another form of income to support their households, when in reality, that is the easiest loan that you could get. You only had to go to the bank, sign no more documents, swipe it, and you just took out a loan. And if you don't pay that card in full by the due date, you will be taking on some additional interest charges and potentially late fees. So we're creating a cycle of debt. And again, this has led to about 56% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. And to be honest with you, this statistic is off, because there's an additional, I believe, 17% of people as of this particular survey that are living below paycheck to paycheck, meaning that, you know, paycheck to paycheck suggests that you're bringing in a certain amount of money and that you're actually also generating enough money, that you're not generating enough money to go out. So it's kind of balancing out, washing even to even. What's coming in is exactly going out. But there's another 17 to 20% of people that are living far below that are living below their income level and don't have enough money even to survive from month to month. And so this really should be closer to about a 65 to 70% number. And that's even sadder. And so again, earning passive income will change your reality. If you can be in a situation where you are sleeping at night and then the first of the month, you have multiple rent payments coming in, maybe your mortgage payment is only a certain dollar amount, and you're generating $300 to $400, $500 extra on top of that from the rent payment, then you can see how easily and quickly you can start building up a nice little comfort level within your own income. And so it's really important that you start generating passive income again, because W-2 is probably not the way to go. And many people are hoping to be with their company the next 20, 30 years, and hopefully they'll retire with that company, get a nice pension. But the reality is you might not be. If you're relying on your employer to retire, it might not be the right plan for you. So recent study again says that ages 65 to 74, so by the time we get to 2022, which is 3 years away from now, 32% of our labor force will be of the age of 65 and 74. through 74. So I don't know about anybody out there, but when I turn 65 or anywhere in between that and 74, I do not want to be working for somebody else. I don't want to have somebody telling me you're late for work faster, do it better. That's not where I'm trying to be. I want to be sitting back telling stories to my grandkids at that age. So, and we're saying that 32%, so 1/3 of the workforce will be of the age of 65, where that's actually the legal retirement age for Social Security. They're actually 65 to 67, depending on what year you were born. So that kind of sucks. And then if you look at this next stat, at age 75 and up, 11% of our workforce will still be dependent upon a W-2 check in order to live and survive. And so that is really scary. It's very scary to me. And so I've worked very hard to, again, build up a nice portfolio of rental properties and other streams of income that help me generate money, so I'm not dependent upon a job that may not want me around for the next 30, 40 years. So let's talk about how we get this money to work for us, right? So few things. You can't get around. You have to save your pennies. You got to save money. Whatever's coming in, you need to be paying yourself first. But one of the big things that we talk about is having the ability to, make saving a actual bill for you. Just like you pay a cable bill or utility bill or your mortgage, perhaps you want to do, make sure that you're making your payment to yourself first. So what I suggest is people having, 10, 15% of their check coming straight out of the check, going into a savings account that hopefully you cannot access as easily. Maybe an account that requires you to go in, or you got to do some extra security things to get to it. Something that will have you thinking, you know what? I'm not going to even touch that money. I'll just wait another week before I make that purchase. So you've got to save money. There's no way around that, because even in the real estate game, there aren't very many more deals out there where you can get in with $0 down. It just isn't happening. And now there's so many real estate investors and everybody's getting kind of savvy. So when deals come up like that, you can best believe within an hour or two, somebody has already made an offer on that deal. So what I'm trying to do is help people become more savvy about this whole real estate game so that they can jump on those opportunities. But you will need some of your own cash in order to get started. Also, you want to surround yourself with like-minded individuals. So if your circle of influence or the people around you are really eager to shop this weekend and make sure that they buy a new pair of shoes or get the latest iPhone or the newest laptop, they may not be the best person for you to spend your time with because you're trying to put your money to a good use. One of the things that is really important in the real estate business or in any investment situation is that you be in a position where you can put money immediately into those opportunities where it's showing a good time. So for example, last week, our stock market got hit terribly. And a lot of people were pulling money out their 401k plans and their stocks because the stock market had dropped. Well, a savvy investor is now going and grabbing every dollar he can and buying those stocks while those prices have just dropped. So that, again, in another week, a month, or quarter, when those numbers shoot back up, they just made money on their investment. So surround yourself with people that are thinking like that. Other people that want to become real estate investors, other people that want to generate multiple streams of income. But really look at your circle. There's an old saying, basically you are a result of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So if you're hanging around 4 broke people, you are bound to be the 5th broke person. If you hang around millionaires, you'll be the 5th millionaire. It's just the way things go. We're more a product of the people that we see and we spend time with than we are of anything else, right? And so the other part of it is to definitely seek out a proven mentor. I have now 6 rental properties. We've started some businesses. My wife is a licensed realtor in the Texas area, but I still find time to reach out to mentors. I have 3 mentors. One helps me with my speaking platform that helped me be professional and present myself so I can get more speaking engagements, paid speaking, keynote engagements. I have one that helps me put together courses and my book and publishing. And then one that's just there to help me with branding and making sure that I'm doing things right in this new world of social media and marketing. And so if I were to try to get in the real estate investing business, I would seek out a mentor, as we did 4 years ago. We went to an organization And we spent the money to invest in ourselves, to learn the hard knocks of the real estate investing business. And it's so fortunate that we followed the exact steps that were laid out for us, and we saw success. You know, if you emulate those same steps, it's very hard for you to kind of walk away as a failure if you follow the same steps of the proven mentor. And then lastly on this slide is invest in rental properties. You know, that's how you get your money to work for you. Investing in rental properties, rinse and repeat the formula. And then once you've built up a nice little portfolio of rentals and you got a nice little stash of funds available, you can now graduate to the next level, which is multifamily properties, owning 8-unit, 12-unit, 16-unit, 24-unit buildings, where it's not tremendously different than managing a single family property. It's just more doors. And so if you do the same, follow the same process, do the things that are needed to be done up front to take care of that property, get some good solid lease agreements in place, that multifamily property will be the retirement for you for sure. And it won't be pennies. It will be big dollars month after month after month. And even if you lost a tenant, you still have more than enough coming in cash flow to cover the expenses of that building. So that's for sure the few things that I would suggest for anybody who wants to make money work for them. Make your money work for you. So why am I even qualified to be here? Why am I even talking about all this, right? My name is Victor Vinico Johnson. I'm the author of Proven Pathways to Wealth and Happiness. This book outlines my story, how in 2011, 12, you know, I was struggling, check to check, credit score low 500s, you know, basically was behind on all my bills. And here's the thing about it, folks. I was a manager of a collection agency, managing collectors to collect from people who were past due on bills. And as soon as I got home, I got bill collectors calling me. How ironic is that? You're managing people to, you know, get these people to collect on these past due bills, to pay these past due bills, to refinance their homes, to work extra hours, or do whatever they got to do to cut back on their bills so that they can pay us and get those accounts paid off so we don't sue you or, you know, continue to report those on your credit report. And then on the back of it, I'm going home and I got 3-4 people calling me about my bills. And then on top of that, I'm looking at these teenagers growing up that at some point, they'll either want to go to college, start a business. They'll want to do something that takes them to the next level of their life. And they'll probably look at their dad and say, hey, I need some support, Dad, whether it's, you know, even just vocal or it's financial. And so my book talks about that story and how we built our real estate portfolio. As of now, we were able to put, within a 3-year period, we were able to put together 6 rental properties. And now I'm running these 3 businesses here: 555 Equity, Credit Restoration Mentors, and Nico Dime Projects. So really excited about that, but just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background on me and why I'm even worth you listening to for these few minutes here today. And I do appreciate you. Thank you so much, Dion. That's my big sis out there in Cali, definitely making some moves on the real estate investing side. We appreciate you jumping in today. So let's jump into it. What are the benefits of rental property investing? And a lot of people don't realize this, and I've laid this all out, but I really intended to kind of bullet this out so you don't jump ahead of schedule. But I do appreciate that. You guys are here, so I want to give you all the kit and caboodle that I can give you. All right, so let's see what we got. So the first thing is monthly cash flow. We just talked about, you know, that fact that if you can get your rental properties set up, you know, the way that they're supposed to, you follow the formula, then you should be making probably anywhere from $300 to $500 per door. And here in the past 12 months in the United States, the average rent is now $1,492. That is crazy. That's not, the average mortgage is like $900 something. So the average rent is now $1,492. So imagine if the mortgage that you're paying on that rental property is only $1,000 a month. Let's just push it to $1,000 with insurance, taxes, and the principal payment on that. What if you were only paying $1,000? So that means you're bringing home $492 a month in profit. You know, in addition to that, there's the equity. So that's the difference between the value of your property and what you invested. So we always coach people to buy properties that need some work. So you're buying them at a wholesale rate. You're putting a few dollars in them to get them up to retail rate. And that's what your equity capture is there. Okay, so you're earning profit just by putting some work into that property and watching it grow. And then we ran some numbers here before we put together the slides today. The appreciation rate. So nationally, 5.2% is the appreciation rate. What is appreciation? If you buy a house today for $100,000, in 1 year, based on this national appreciation rate, that house will be worth $105,000, $105,200 to be exact. So it has gone up by $5,000 based on the national average. A lot of our followers are in the Atlanta area. Atlanta is a smoking hot market right now. And right now, they're showing an appreciation rate of 6.6% in the last 12 months. So using the same example of buying a property at $100,000, now, a year later, that property is worth $106,600. So it's gone up 6.6%. And then Dallas, where I'm at, a smoking hot market, is basically showing a 10% jump in appreciation year over year. So you buy that house at 100 grand, if you can find them anymore, that house will now be worth $110,000 if these trends continue over the next year and there's no signs of anything backing off at this time. All right. And then, of course, the tax benefits. This is the one that's not often spoken about. And a lot of people, I'm not looking to get political here or anything, but, we all know that our president has a portfolio of real estate across the country and probably in other countries. And the reason that, people are getting on him about not paying taxes is because in real estate, when you do your transactions properly, you are basically not in a situation where you have to pay the capital gains tax on it. But by holding that property over a year, you sell it, or you can do something known as a 1031 exchange, which falls under the tax codes. There are literally dozens and dozens of tax codes that will teach you how not to pay taxes for the gains that you earn. So it's really important that you seek out a CPA and talk to your tax professional about the specifics. But in 4 years that we've been buying rental properties and selling properties and refinancing and things like that, the capital gains that we've earned, our CPA has followed every tax code to the letter, and we've not had to pay capital gains on those earnings. So it's a beautiful way to, again, build your wealth. And, when we think about wealth building, there's two really big things that take away from building wealth in our life. And the number one thing is taxes. And the next thing is insurance. So a lot of times we're paying far too high insurance and taxes, and we're really not savvy about the changes and things like that. And a lot of times you're throwing thousands of dollars away because we're not educated on that. So that's just kind of a sidebar. So let's get into the meat and potatoes. Here's a standard transaction. And in the real estate investing world, we call this the bread and butter. This is a bread and butter transaction right here. Well, we bought a house that should be valued at $100,000, but we bought it for $50,000. How did we get it for $50,000? Well, it had tremendous property damages and it needed some upgrades. And we're not talking about, you needed a complete roof redone or maybe you had to get foundation relaid. We're talking about some basic things, and I'll go over that in the next slide. But let's just say you were able to get a deal for $50,000 and that property, the comparables or the comps in the neighborhood are showing that the properties are worth about $100,000, okay? And I wanna make sure that I get everybody muted there. All right, cool. All right, we got everybody, good deal, good deal. All right, so now we go through that. Let's say you have 20 grand that you wanna put towards it to get it fixed up. So now you're all in the 50,000 plus the 20,000, so you're still at only 70,000. And again, the comps say that that neighborhood, that house should draw $100,000. So you're about 30 grand to the good now. But where do you get the money? Well, we use hard money lenders and private lenders to help us with the bulk of that transaction. And what hard money and private lenders are going to do, they're going to evaluate whether or not you're worthy of getting the money for that particular property based on the property itself. So again, if they run the comps in the area and they say, yep, that house should be at 100 grand if it looks like the other house down the block that just got recently renovated and that sold for $100,000. Yeah, I think you can, if you do what you need to do to get that house to look like that other one, I'm in. I'll give you 80 grand to do what you got to do. So or he may only give you 65. And that's where you kind of come in with some of the little money out of your pocket to get the deal done. And sometimes the way these hard money lenders will work is even if the deal has enough meat on it to where they'll cover the full transaction, sometimes they still want you to have some meat in the game, you know, something in the game to show that you definitely are all in and you scraped up some of your own money to make this thing work. Because if you default on that transaction, what are they gonna do? They're gonna take that house. That house no longer is yours. And so even if you get a tenant in there, you get it cash flowing, they have the ability under their documents to take that property back from. So we do use hard money. That's one. There's several ways to get money. Some people use, you know, self-directed IRA accounts. Some people use 401k plans. Some people have cash. Some people get some inheritance. But whatever you do, you will need a few dollars to get going, right? And then also, there is the whole market and lease property factor. So in our program, we teach people how to market that property and get the right tenants, what information to gather. We include, you know, lease documents, application fees, background checks. We use a service known as cozy.co. That's COZY.co. Cozy.co allows us to accept applications, charge an application fee, charge a background check fee. They will process it for us through TransUnion and send us back the report. You can upload documents. Your applicants can upload their pay stubs and identification, all the things that you would need to qualify them for a property. So we talk about all that in the full course, but definitely you want to market it correctly and try to attract people to that property as quickly as possible. And again, we talk about the cash flow. So next, what are we doing to a house? 20 grand, sometimes you don't even have to spend that. Our first deal, you know, our first property was an $80,000 house. In fact, it was $84,000. We were required to bring about $7,000 to the closing table. And then we put an additional $5,000 with the hard money lender to rehab the property. And so all in, we had about 12 grand out of pocket. But boy, 2 years later, because we fixed the property, because we were cash flowing, and because of the appreciation in that area of San Antonio, we walked away from the closing table 2 years later. After putting $12,000 of cash down, we walked away with $43,000 in 2 years. What a return. 298% return on the cash that we invested. It is definitely the way you want to go. That is why I'm so passionate about real estate investing. So what do? You know, we don't always do these things, but sometimes you're going to have to replace water heaters. You know, that might be $1,000. Some appliances, you know, maybe put a new stove in there. We have our tenants put their own refrigerators in, because if you've ever been in a situation where you had to move out of a property fast, sometimes you leave things behind in that refrigerator, and those things can spoil really quickly, especially here in this market. We're in Dallas. There's 107 degrees a day. So if the AC and the power is off in an abandoned house, it won't take long for those items in that refrigerator to spoil and the smell to take over the whole house, right? So we don't buy refrigerators, but we do put in new dishwashers, new ovens, things like that. We update the floors. And when we're talking about rental properties, we probably won't do tile or the real wood flooring, but we will do laminates. Those are running about $1.25 a square foot. And as opposed to tile, might cost you closer to $5 or $7 a square foot. So you want to be very strategic when you're dealing with rental properties, as opposed to a fix and flip where you want to maximize the return on that flip side. So you're going to put granite countertops, you know, chandeliers, the best ceiling fans, all that kind of stuff. Where in a rental, you want that place to be very safe. You want it to be clean and looking good, and you want everything to operate properly, right? So that's what we try to recommend. Get it working to the best of your ability, but don't go overboard on the rehab. We also want to talk about getting a good contractor. And, you know, within our network, we do have resources of contractors in many of the states that we operate in. And if we don't have somebody there, we probably have somebody that can get somebody there. So that's something that's really big on. And here's the most shocking thing I can share with you. So with the rental properties we have, not one of them are in my residential city of Dallas, Texas, or in the Dallas metro area. They're all in San Antonio, outside of Austin, Kansas City, and in Atlanta, Georgia. and I don't have a property manager. We did everything we needed to do to fix those properties up. We have some good tools that help us collect rent, to accept maintenance requests, and then we have vendors in those markets that we can send around those properties to fix things up when things go bad, right? So that's how you save money, as opposed to paying 25% of your rent payment each month to a property manager. You could actually pocket that money or save it and reinvest it into more properties. So coming down the home stretch here, what do we do with leasing and counting the money? So again, we talk about screening those tenants and applicants. You know, you don't want people that have had a history of showing that they don't take care of properties, or that have a history of not paying their rent. You know, we've had some situations where we've had to work with people with poor credit. I'm not really concerned about your credit, or if you're not paying a credit card, or if you got a student loan, that really doesn't have an impact on me. I need to know how well you've taken care of your largest bill every month, which is your rent or your mortgage. Have you been paying your bills on time? Have you been, as far as the rent goes, have you been a nuisance to the property and, you know, damaging things, causing issues for the neighbors? Those are things that would be red flags for me. If there is a history of, you know, some drug activity, I may require a larger deposit. But what it really comes down to is communicating with people, you know, and don't be desperate to rent your property out. If you fix that property up the way that it should be, and it looks good, and you're screening applicants, only people who really want to be in a good neighborhood and a good house that just got renovated, maybe there's a good school over there that their child goes to, they don't want to damage that property. They want to be able to live there as long as you allow them to be there. And it's really smart that you screen your tenants. Do not, I hate to say this, but sometimes you don't want to go with your best friends or your family members because they know now you're in a rental properties. Oh man, I need a place to stay all of a sudden. You got to still send them through your proper screening process. Otherwise, you could be the one that's damaged in this whole thing. They leave 2-3 months down the line, they're not paying the mortgage or not paying the rent, and you still have a mortgage payment that's due. So it's really important that you screen those tenants properly. And if your property has been marketed and within 3 days, nobody is reaching out, nobody's responding, either the property still doesn't look good enough or you've got it way priced too wrong. So you got to look at the market, do some market analysis, you know, use your real estate agent. You should have a realtor on your team that helps you. And again, we have a network of realtors that we use with our clients that will help them and get a really qualified agent that will help them run those proper numbers, find out what the real rent rate should be for that house, for that block, for that neighborhood. And then, of course, have a strong lease agreement. I can't tell you how many people, how many real estate investors we've talked to over the years that have had a good tenant, had a good place, things were going good, but something happened and their lease wasn't properly outlined to cover that particular situation. An example I can give is maybe they didn't have a pet clause, and this person now is bringing in 2 or 3 dogs that you don't have a clause that addresses whether or not they can bring pets in, and should they pay a deposit, and how much is the monthly rent for that pet. And what if something happens on that property that was caused by that dog attacking someone, maybe a visitor? You need to have all of that outlined. And so we've done a great job with working with some, you know, really qualified agents and attorneys in different states that have helped us identify the best lease agreements for at least the states that we're operating in. And we certainly have some tools to help people in other markets to find those proper lease agreements. So here's what's happening. That's the meat and potatoes. That's kind of like the fromage, the real quick hit of how you do it. You find a property at a wholesale rate, you throw a few dollars into it, you rehab it up, you find a good tenant, you rent it out, and actually the next step of it that I didn't even cover there, you refinance that property out of your hard money lender. And hopefully you fix the property up properly. Now you have a lease agreement in place showing somebody's paying the mortgage. Go to your conventional lender and see how much they'll give you. And that's where you start making your cash flow, because now you're not paying that high note, that interest payment every month to the hard money lender or the private lender. You're paying a conventional mortgage to a standard credit union, bank, mortgage company that got you at a, you know, now rates are at a 3.25, 3.75. I mean, rates are super, super, super low right now. So you could find yourself really in a situation where you're only paying $600-700 on that property, but you're collecting rent of of $1,200 to $1,300 a month. So now we're in that $600-700 cash flow range. Really, really a valuable thing to do. So we teach this to people. We want everybody to be successful. We want people to be in a situation where they can close a deal in 90 days, no matter where they're at in the country. And so we're offering our course. Of course, I've done some pre-recorded courses that are giving you about an hour and a half of just detailed information, much more detailed than what we've covered here. I do the coaching calls myself directly, 8 live coaching calls. So after each module, as you go through one phase, you'll have me to consult with. There's no time limit on that. You know, if you need 30 minutes, you need an hour, we'll walk through it and look at the exact details of your transaction. I include downloadable documents, the lease agreements, contracts, evaluation sheets, everything that we've used in order to be successful in our real estate transactions over the last 3 to 4 years, right? And then, of course, as part of the package, we include the resource page, which has realtors in various cities, states, contractors, hard money lenders, mortgage brokers. We've got people that can do collections on rent payments. All of that stuff is available. Plumbers, any particular resource that you need or contractor that you need, depending on your market, we should be able to assist you with that. And then, of course, all of the free QA that you need throughout the program while you're in here. We're not going to let you fail if you're taking the actions on your own. Now, this does require a commitment and an investment by each individual that decides to do this. I'm not out here preaching a get rich quick scheme. This is not something that, oh yeah, you do this course, you'll be a millionaire in 30 days. This is not that program. If that's what you were looking for, then I would encourage you to find something else. I'm teaching very practical steps, realistic action items that you can take to close your first rental property deal in 90 days. And in 30 days from that, you should realize $300 to $500 in profit cash flow. And the rest of it is kind of on autopilot from that point. You just have to, make sure you're collecting your rent, put a good system in place for collecting those rent payments and managing any maintenance issues that come up, which again, we coach you through all of that process. And that's something that I'm really passionate about, making sure that my clients are successful. And then lastly, as a gift, we throw in a free book, copy of my autographed book, Proven Pathways of Wealth and Happiness. I know my sister's got a copy. Few people out there have gotten copies, and it's very important that I include that as part of it because, again, it gives a little bit of insight into some of the struggles and challenges that I personally had to go through, but still was able to just make it through with great coaching, with a beautiful wife and a great wife, and, of course, with a great spiritual background and mentorship. I was able to find the tools that I needed to get it done. And so I outline all that in the book. So here's the great, great news I have for you guys. My challenge is to you to take action now. Whatever you do, you must take action so that you can start realizing the next level of your life. Start creating your future self. Start putting together that plan so that you could take those trips to the Naxos Islands, or you can put your kids through college, or you can have that dream home, and you don't have to work 80 hours a week in order to realize those things, right? But we do encourage you to take some kind of action. So here's what I'm offering today. Typically, I offer this course at $1,297. I'm knocking $400 off here, and I'm gonna actually extend this offer through the rest of the week. Because I know there's a lot of people that just sent their kiddos back to school, and that extra few dollars could make a huge difference in their household. But it's important that we have people get a chance to get into this business. And again, I'm gonna give you all the support, probably a little bit more than I even should offer in this, because I'm really so passionate about making sure that my first few clients from this particular module are able to realize success for the program. So reach out to us. You can visit the website, nicodonprojects.com, if you're interested in getting the course. Again, I'll work with people. If they need to break it in a couple installments, that's fine. But it's really important that you take action. I know in our initial program, we spent $20,000 to learn basically these same tips that I'm going to give away in this course. And obviously we got a little bit more than that, but I look back at it now and I would have saved that 20 grand. I would have put that 20 grand and went up to Kansas City where my mama lives, and I would have bought 5 little units on a block. And now I would own that whole block. And now that equity in those buildings would have me at $150,000. So, there are people that are still going out there to these bigger programs, and spending the 20 grand. And hey, kudos to them. I wanted to make this a very bite-sized chunk, give you the support that you need, but give you a low enough price where you still could put your own money towards an actual transaction. That was the biggest issue that we had in the beginning. It was like we couldn't even pay for the real course in the beginning. All we could pay for was the booklet. And then we took our cash and went and did our first deal and turned that 12 grand into $43,000. So you could be next. And that's the presentation. I'm really excited again about everybody that was able to join today. Thank you. I really appreciate you jumping in. This is the website, nicodonprojects.com. We also offer the book and the courses. And tomorrow night, I'll be doing a course on do-it-yourself credit repair program for those of you out there that want to get some credit repair, but don't want everybody all up in your business. So we'll show you how we run our program with the Credit Restoration Mentors. We offer you a few letter templates and things to help you out with those. But for now, those of you that have questions, comments, if you have anything now, let me know. I see a few chats in here. Let's see, great info. I appreciate that, sis. Appreciate that, Trey. Appreciate LMB. Thank you guys so much for jumping in live. Again, this was a recorded session, so I'm going to ensure that we circulate it. And this publication, I'll actually email out to you guys in a PDF format in case you have other people that you want to pass it on to in your network. Anybody have any questions? Let me see if I can unmute everybody real quick. If there's any questions, feel free to chime in now. No questions? Trayvon, I appreciate you, brother. Do we have a question over here? Let's take a look at the chat. Okay. All right. I don't think so. I think we're good to go. So I appreciate you guys again. This my loyal, my supporters. I really appreciate that. And again, we're going to circulate this out to the world and get some more folks out there that are eager and anxious to start building their passive income. In the meantime, thank you guys so much, and I'll be talking to you again soon. Have a good one.
Appreciate you.
No problem.